Hello, friends, and happy Friday. Welcome to the Friday Conversation. This week we're having just a casual forum hangout, and these seem to be where we get into the most trouble and have the funnest topics. If you'd like to join us for one, join the forum and check out the Friday Conversation Club and join us when we have these every once in a while. So, Susanna, will you start us off with an introduction?
Hello, my name is Susanna Imaginário. I'm the author of Timelessness, and I run a YouTube channel, Den of the Weird.
And Paramita.
Hi everyone, my name is Paramita. I am a reader and I like to read in different kinds of genres, and I'm also a member of the Page Chewing Forum. I'm happy to be here.
Is there any genre that you don't read?
Slasher, horror, romance, western. Romance, erotica, western. Probably be the three.
You may run out of books soon. And Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm also a member of the Page Chewing Forum, and what I'm hoping will be my first published book is currently in editing.
Nice.
Still.
What is that like to have an editor going through your hard work and turn it apart? Or at least, like not turn it apart, but looking for problems or looking for errors. Is it a relief? Is it nerve-wracking? What is that process like for you?
It's a little bit nerve-wracking, but it is also a relief because I know my written English is not that good. So if I was to release it in its current state, I would be laughed out of all authoring spheres of the world.
What about you, Susanna? Do you feel the same?
Yeah, it's a cringing experience at times, but necessary. There are things that, as a non-native English speaker, I'm completely oblivious. I don't even notice some mistakes, grammar, typos, and but every writer needs an editor, because we are blind to our work pretty much. So.
Yeah, that'd be tough to choose. It would be tough for me to choose an editor too, because I don't know, it feels kind of weird, like they're going through your underwear drawer or something. Like it's kind of a vulnerable feeling. I would imagine I'll probably never know for sure, but
It's not that bad. I mean, I was terrified at the beginning, and when you see all the corrections, and most of them were things that I didn't even noticed. It's embarrassing. I can't help. With my first book, I was very embarrassed. I was like, "Well, this is not good at all," but it was necessary, and then it became presentable. That's why I was paying the editor to telling me what was wrong with it and fix it. And if I had more money, I would have paid 2 or 3 editors. I think it would have been a much better book.
I guess you have to make those decisions, right? When you decide on whether you're going to go with an audiobook or where you spend your budget for your work. Like if you hire another editor, do you invest in a narrator, or lots of different choices to be made and how to proceed with your projects?
Yeah.
Editor is definitely an essential. And for me, if I go self-published, then an artist will be an essential thing as well, because my artistic ability when it comes to that sort of thing is just non-existent.
Mm-hmm.
And now that's a whole nother set of headaches, right?
Things
with AI.
Yeah.
With AI and we are usually in a small budget, but even at a higher budget, hiring someone online, I'm having such a hard time with illustrators. It's not even funny anymore. I thought it was just a couple bad experiences. Then one, I didn't even communicated with him. I let my husband do all the work because the previous one had complained that I didn't explain myself properly. So he did all the work and all the communication, and there's still a problem. Recently, I had another issue with an illustrator. I pointed out something I didn't like, that it wasn't how I requested. Came back saying, no, yes, it is. That's exactly what you asked. I literally copy-paste what I had written. No, it's not. And here's the reference material. No, it's not. Oh, we can't work anymore. You are a bad person.
Wow.
So the level of professionalism, seriously, stay away from Fever, because no, not again.
Jeez.
I don't know how these people go through life. Just, it's a battle. I can't. I'm taking a break.
Yeah, it's tough. I know there's an artist that I've used for some artwork. Maybe I'll send you her name. She was pretty easy to work with.
Thank you.
But I guess to start off with, what's the best thing that happened to you this week? Who wants to go first? Everyone go silent.
Been a tough week.
I can go.
I need to think about it.
I can go.
Yeah.
There was this book that was being talked about. There's been a bit of a buzz around it, but the blurbs and the reviews, a lot of them were comparing them to loads of authors, like, comma, it's like this, and I was not getting a sense of the book at all. And then just by chance, I realized that Tad Williams who's one of my favorite fantasy authors, he's actually blurbed the book. And then I read his blurb. And based on that blurb, I read the book. It was so good. I loved it. And it's a debut. It's published by Daw Books. The book is called The Failures by Benjamin Lyer, which is a pseudonym, by the way. Anyway, so it's the first book in a trilogy. And it was so my kind of book. The vibe of this book is like a dark Alice in Wonderland, or a Tim Burton film. The earlier Tim Burton film, something like The Castle in Edward Scissorhands, something like that. So it was very, very my kind of aesthetic, and I really, the characters, the story, the writing being apt to the kind of story being told, it just worked. So that was a 5-star read for me. That was the best thing.
Wow.
A similar thing. I have a book crush. My TBR is it's just there. It's just going to continue. I completely derailed my plans. I came across Doing Time by Jodie Taylor, the Time Police, book 1. And I loved it. I'm on book 2 now, and I have to now read the entire series and the other series if it's in the same style. Because, it's exactly the thing that I needed. It's very light, funny, witty. Usually I like darker, more convoluted stuff. But this is just fun. It's just a lot of fun. The right mindset, the right voice. That I really needed a break from serious things. So, yeah, it's been a great week, audiobook-wise.
What about you, Alex?
Well, the only good thing I can think of from this week is nothing to do with books. The automation testing software I'm using at work, I finally managed to get it to work out how to add shifts into a appointment booking piece of software we're creating by having to define a fairly set and complicated XPath to get to the right cell on the calendar. So that was about the best thing that happened to me all week.
Nice. Yeah. So this week I've been playing around with a drone, just flying it around and goofing off. It's been pretty fun. Work has been absolute shit, so it's been a nice escape because I've been on the verge of losing my mind all week. So it's good that it's Friday, for sure. Yeah, it's been a week, but yeah, as far as reading goes, I think the only thing that I finally finished Red Shirts. I'm not a fan of the book. I don't know if any of you've read it, but we're reading it for speculative
I haven't.
speculations. Have you read it?
Okay. No, I haven't. Is it by John Scalzi? The name sounds familiar. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's basically a play on.
Is it good?
It's funny, but there's I won't say too much. It plays with the trope of the red shirt from Star Trek. You know, the red shirt that always comes along in a mission. You know, they're never going to survive. That they're always going to die, and the main characters will always survive. And it's kind of a cigar and blindfold situation every time someone new shows up. So it's kind of a play on that. It's funny, but there's a shtick to it. There's like a formula to it, and it just goes on too long. I think it'd be better if it was a novella or something short. It just everyone else. I'm the only one who doesn't like it. Everyone else loves it in the group, so maybe it's just me. But I'm done, so I'm happy that it's over. It's one of those situations where it's not bad. It's just not for me. It's just not. Doesn't.
Yeah,
I'm picky with
no.
humor.
I'm very picky with humor as well. So that was another thing that clicked for me in this book, The Failures. It has this, well, there are some very humorous things. And it's again that sort of whimsical thing which usually it clicks or I'm just like, no, this is too much. But it worked for me here. There's another thing that was very nice. And the reason why it was the best thing that happened to me is because after a long, long time, I read a book that I'm very keen to reread. Even as I was halfway or maybe past the 60% mark, I was like, I'm so excited to go back and reread this at some point again. So that's a very nice feeling.
Do you reread a lot that you read, or do you only select a few?
Select stuff, yes, but it does form quite a bit of, I would say 30-40% of my reading is reread. It's not dominant, but it's not negligible. Some things have become.
I have like 3 rereads a year.
Some things have become a bit of a, I don't know, I just made them myself and now I do them every year. Like rereading Lord of the Rings annually has become comfort to me. I have reread Kingkiller for the past years, but that has just been more when I'm feeling slumpy. I'm like, what do I read now? So then I reread Kingkiller. Speaking of which, today I just finished before, not before this, but before another thing I was appearing on. I finished this book called Doors of Midnight, which came out this week itself. It came out on 13th in the US and 15th in the UK. It's the second book in the Tales of Tremaine by R.R. Wordy, the first book is called The First Binding, and I think it came out in 2021 or 2022. I'm not 100% sure when it came out, but anyway, there was a lot of buzz around this book being very, very similar to Name of the Wind. And today I finished Doors of Midnight, and it got me thinking a bit on the difference between influence and inspiration versus copy or rip-off. And it's just something that I've been thinking about. One author I remember who has been, you can say, labeled with this lifelong or career long is actually an author we were talking a bit about on the forum this week, Terry Brooks. So his debut novel was Sword of Shannara. It was a trilogy. It was a part of the and this first book, when people read, the only thing that I've heard about people say about it is that it is a ripoff of Lord of the Rings. This is Lord of the Rings copy. And interestingly, the person who I've seen disagree with this, who is also a huge, huge Tolkien, I would say nerd, not just casual fan nerd, is Alex. So I was wondering if and he has told me actually that Sword of Shannara, I don't think it is just Fellowship 2.0, like there's more to that. So I was just wondering if maybe we could pick Alex's brain a bit on this, because it's very strongly on my mind.
You can try and pick my brain. There's not a huge amount of it, but I mean, I don't think it's that similar to Lord of the Rings.
Right.
I mean, his world building spans several books for a start. And he started midway through his timeline. So Sword of Shannara isn't the start of the Shannara world. It's well after the apocalypse that creates it. And yeah, it's a different idea to Lord of the Rings. There's no creator or anything. Everything is all based around evolution.
Can you think of why a lot of reviews on Goodreads, which are a bit negative, or even the 3-star ones, they say this, they're like, this is just a Tolkien clone. Or even when people talk about the fact that in 80s and 90s, especially in epic fantasy, the early 90s, the main trend was you had to write something Tolkien-esque to sell the first book, and then you can go in your own direction. The key example that people give here is Robert Jordan's Eye of the World. But there are other series that are very popular. Raymond E. Feist had The Magician, and then I think David Eddings had The Belgaria. I'm not sure how I'm pronouncing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of them which definitely gets dunked on the most, to almost the point where I've seen a lot of, and I'm not sure whether they've read the book or they just repeat a bit of what other people say. But I've heard this the most about Shannara, is that the first book is just, I think it's what they say is Fellowship 2.0. But then equally, I also hear readers say that Elfstones is very much, which is book 2, is very much its own thing. So even if Sword of Shannara, which is book 1, is Fellowship of the Ring, then Elfstones is not Two Towers. Is that something that's, what would you say, Alex, since you've read it?
I mean, there's a close-knit group of adventurers, but that's been standard in most fantasy novels since the year dot. I mean, that's almost a Dungeons and Dragons concept, that you have a party of adventurers. They're fairly close knit. 2 of them are brothers, but I just don't see it. The writing's very different to Lord of the Rings. It's much lighter. It's more like the sort of David Eddings Belgaria type thing, which one person on the forum described to me as popcorn fantasy, because it was so easy to read. It's a lot lighter than Tolkien stuff. It's certainly, as you go through the Lord of the Rings, I mean, if you ignore The Hobbit, which is almost like a kid's book, as you go through the Lord of the Rings, that gets progressively darker and darker the more you read it. And the Shannara stuff, I think, gets darker in later books, but the first set of books, the Sword of Shannara, the Wish Song, and the Elfstones, that's not the right order, but those are the 3. There are a lot, bad things happen because it's a fantasy book and they're on an adventure, but it's never as dark or hopeless as things feel in the Lord of the Rings. Right. So there's a different tone to the book in that sense. And the storyline's not the same either. They're not going to destroy an artifact. They're off to stop a dark, malevolent shade of a wizard in the first book.
Okay, yeah. So that's not, fair. It's just been on my mind a lot because, again, with the Tales of Tremaine, this first binding, and now Doors of Midnight, the people who liked it, but then the people who didn't like it, and with the first book, even I was a bit like this. It is unbelievable. It just gives you King Killer vibes. Like you read it and you're like, this is Name of the Wind, and this is what happens. This is that character. This is that character. So it felt very, 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 very reminiscent of certain stuff. But how much of that is just that, I read Rothfuss before. So yeah, it's just been on my mind, and I would love to hear what you all think about this. Like some things are inspired by your favorite stuff, and then this border between inspiration and homage and then ripoff. When does it start to get annoying for you? And in any media, like let's say even films and stuff, if they remake stuff or things like
that. It's hard to tell, but you can tell when it's something that it's inspired or it's done as an homage to another work, or when it's just copying it. Things don't fit. The storytelling suffers if you copy, if you borrow a concept for another book, but you don't create the necessary context, plot and characters to carry on, then you're gonna notice, that plot point is gonna stand out because it doesn't fit anywhere else. Or if you copy a character, same thing if it doesn't fit. So it's all right to take inspiration. We take inspiration from everywhere, and most of the times I don't even notice. I personally sometimes purposely use a phrase or have a character that it is directly inspired by another character, things like that I am conscious of, but most of the times I'm not, and someone might see parallels with other works. I mean, it's all connected, but when you do it intentionally, yeah, I think it's difficult. You're gonna have to be very good at crafting to make it fit. You can't tell the same story twice.
It's
or they get just with another name. People will notice.
That would be tough, I think, to write a story or to craft a story, because I think, just like you mentioned, I think unintentionally we were influenced by other stories, and we don't intentionally do it, but a lot of well, I'm sure some people do it on purpose, but I think it just naturally happens when you're creating a story that you insert things that you enjoy, that you like in stories, and it's that'd be something that's why I could probably never write a story, because it would just be a repeat of something else I've read before with bits and pieces of other things.
But it's all a repeat. You are all just compiling and retelling stuff. It's just make it your own.
Yeah.
It's
I definitely felt that while reading this book, Doors of Midnight, that it's very, very intentional and deliberate. Like what Susanna said, that she often builds in certain references. I can, maybe because this is a habit of me, pathologically reading King Killer for clues. But there were things in Doors of Midnight that I immediately could say, okay, this is what he is referring to, what word the author is referring to in the King Killer. And I think he wanted readers to know that like there's no way that it is not deliberate. And now I'm very curious, what was the reason for building in these references? Was it just for fun that, hey, this is a nod to a work which really inspired me to write my book? Or is he actually doing something more with it? One example of this would be, I asked this question on a Discord server as well, and one of my friends said this. He said that first law, for all the comparisons that people make to A Song of Ice and Fire, in that they are both grimdark, but Abercrombie has actually said that Lord of the Rings was more of an influence for him than for this particular trilogy, the First Law trilogy, than A Song of Ice and Fire, and that just makes sense to me from what I've read of the first three books. It's absolutely a conversation with Lord of the Rings, much more than anything in A Song of Ice and Fire. I just don't understand. the only parallel I can see between A Song of Ice and Fire and First Law is that the success of A Song of Ice and Fire made it possible to sell the First Law trilogy. Like it paved the way for there being a market for books like that. But other than that, I don't see any parallels. So yeah, Abercrombie definitely does stuff there where just from the beginning of this sort of unlikely fellowship to all the way, there's a twist at the end of book 2, which is very, very much it hits more if we know the story of Lord of the Rings. So I think sometimes authors are doing very clever stuff with it, and we get it. And I think readers get it when they've read what the book is in conversation with as well. Then it feels a very clever, not in a pretentious sort of way, just in nice, I see what you did there kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
Does that happen in movies?
Yeah, I don't see the.
Sorry, Susanna, go ahead.
I say I don't see the comparison between First Law and The Song of Ice and Fire beyond what you said, that one allowed the other to exist. But people just like to compare everything to A Song of Ice and Fire, pretty much, or Lord of the Rings. It's one or the other. I think they need to read more. I mean, they don't read as much. They read those two, so that's the two they're going to compare. It's not. Sorry, I just don't see it.
Does this happen in movies as well? Because I know, or shows, or even games, actually, because like one of the things that a lot of us chat about on Discord is Souls-like games. So are there elements or archetypes that show up that are nods to other creators? And same question with movies or TV shows. Like, are those things that you pick up on while seeing?
It's hard to say with movies because these days every movie that comes out is a direct remake.
Oh no, that's disappointing.
Yeah. I was trying to remember a movie I watched a while back. I actually DNF'd it because it was annoying me because it was rip-off of scene after scene. It wasn't the one with the dinosaur, but I'm trying to think of the name and I can stay here all evening. There was another one that annoyed me. Please, Susanna, remember the name. With the guy from Star Wars.
65?
65.
And dinosaurs. 65 million, yeah. That was a ripoff from Jurassic Park, Alien, I don't know. There was so many scenes from other great films that it just annoyed me. There was nothing original there. Just sad. I'll keep thinking about the other one because the other one annoyed me more. In books, I don't see it so much. I have to say, sometimes I think I do, but how many different ways can you write the same trope? I think that happens a lot, especially when you read a lot. You're going to find the same archetypes, the same tropes, again and again. So it's not necessarily, a copy. It's just the elements that are necessary to write that story. And they're going to resemble other similar stories. It happens.
Yeah, I think with books, I think it's a little bit different when you cross the line of being inspired, or when it goes to more of a carbon copy. I think because there's so much detail in a book, and in a movie you can get away with certain things that it's a 2-hour or 1.5 to 2 hour commitment. But there's a lot of there's a lot of things that are heavily taken from other movies. But I think some people like that. I think some people like when they're watching a movie or reading a book and they feel like a sense of comfort when it's a lot like something else that they enjoy, and they feel like it's like a retelling of a book or a story that they like. But it really irritates me. But I think some people find comfort in that. Like like it's a good thing, like it's a comfort food. Like they don't have to think too much about it either. It's just, you know, another version of something that they like.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind a cheeky little homage to something else in a film or a book, but
Yeah, that is nice.
if it's
Yeah.
just a direct copy, just with some different names, then I'm not going to carry on with it, film or book.
I found the name was the creator. Just no,
Oh no, that sucks to hear that.
nothing
I had some hopes for that one.
original there. Well, it
Yeah, I
didn't
think I
work
had
for
that
me.
down
I
on a
was getting
list to
very annoyed.
watch.
There was some. It was almost scene by scene, the same style of dialogue, the same dynamic from, especially Aliens and other movies. But I, it, you, every scene was rubbing me the wrong way because I kept having flashbacks of other movies. Yeah, no, not cool.
You mentioned Aliens. I think that must be becoming quite a tired franchise now. I mean, how many different ways can you have facehugger implants alien bursts out and kills everybody?
Is there one that came out very
Well,
recently? Aliens Romulus, is it called? Because
mm-hmm.
I think one of my friends went to watch it and he really, really liked it. And then somebody else
Yeah,
was,
apparently it's getting some good
Hmm.
reviews.
yeah,
So
they were like, it was really good. And then one other person shared a review, others is just trash. So I've got one almost 5-star, highly recommend, and then one utter trash. Don't know. It sounds like there are a lot of movies. I don't even know how many there are. But one thing I was asking, I thought I would ask. So in books, for example, at least in SFF, you are expected, let's say, with very few exceptions, like maybe Discworld, if you are to read book 3 of a series, you are expected to read books 1 and 2. Usually, so is that the case for movie franchises as well? Do you have to have watched the earlier ones to get this one?
generally, yes, not all of them,
Okay.
but it helps. Like for example, for Indiana
Mhm.
Jones, you don't need to. The original trilogy, every movie works pretty well as a standalone. But the vast majority, yes, it does help.
Nice. Here's a sweet summer child question. Indiana Jones also has movies beyond the original trilogy.
Oh yes, but you don't need to watch those.
Okay.
Don't worry.
What was the trilogy wrapped up in what, the early or mid 90s?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I heard a rumor that the next one coming out will be Indiana Jones and the Zimmer frame of Doom.
Oh dear.
But I mean, again, just sorry, one thing. If it's Indiana Jones, is it something like they do with James Bond or Doctor Who? Do they change the protagonist? Because otherwise, it will be get someone getting quite old, no? Or it doesn't matter.
Mm,
No, it's a 70-something-year-old Harrison Ford still doing it.
I see.
mm-hmm.
Okay, okay, nice. Okay.
I think they were trying to pass the torch. It seems like, from what I hear, that they were trying to kind of introduce a new character to hand the mantle to keep the franchise going, but doesn't sound like going over too well. So they're going to continue that.
Well,
Well,
they introduced in the Crystal Skull. They had Shia LaBeouf as Indiana Jones's son,
mm-hmm.
but then Shia LaBeouf went a bit strange, and I don't think he does films anymore.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And it didn't work. I mean, it's going to be a very hard character to
Yeah,
recast.
Hmm. is it possible to sort of write something which is a spin-off instead of continuing the main thing? So explore the world with a different character rather than have, or is that not the correct approach for this franchise?
Could probably do a reboot or like a
No,
reimagining, I
it's
guess.
yeah, they could if they find another actor that can play the character. It's a bit like 007 or Sherlock Holmes.
Okay.
It's the same character, and each actor brings something to it, so it could work, but it needs a good story to go with it. And the last couple of films, they didn't capture the essence of Indiana Jones. Let's say, didn't do it justice.
Are you all experiencing a bit of franchisee fatigue, or do you still enjoy the things that, I mean, new movies coming out from the things that you used to like watching? Let's say Star Wars. I'm asking this question with Star Wars in mind because, again, again, this is from some friend of mine. He just told me that I'm done with watching new Star Wars material, and I said, so what happened? Did they do uh, stuff that was, what do I say, not very interesting, or did they break lore? What was it? What was it? And he said it all just feels. How do I say?
All of the above.
Yes, yes, yes. The only exception that some people at least say is Andor, and I really, really love the first season of that show. So I do hope to watch second season. But other than that, a lot of people have become disillusioned. So that's the thing that was on my mind when I asked the question about IPs and franchises and ongoing series.
I think part of the problem is, especially with Disney, with Marvel, and with Star Wars, is that they have these really successful and popular franchises, and they pump out too much content. They do too much with
Hmm.
it instead of just being pickier with it and doing a movie every couple of years or a TV show every couple of
Mm-hmm.
years, and they get pick your creative teams wisely and be selective over the stories they
Mm-hmm.
tell. You don't want to
Hmm.
piss off the fans and mess up the lore and do weird things with the lore. So just tell the stories you want to tell. But when you have too much of it, you're bound to get some stinkers, and then you piss people off, and then they tune out because it's too much. Like the Marvel movies. I've never been a fan of Marvel, but when there's a
Mm-hmm.
movie every 3 months and they all just set up one another, it becomes too much, and that it's people just start tuning out, and you get oversaturated, and the stories get watered
Hmm.
down and not as good. So I think that's part of the problem is they need to just put it to rest and just slow down because they're just getting a little carried away. I think where they're making so much money that they like we want more. Just pump these out
Hmm.
because they're making. I mean, in Marvel's heyday, they were making what 800 million to $1 billion every movie. So it won't last forever. Just be careful.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
quite liked the Marvel movies. The thing that got me with Marvel was if you didn't watch the TV series, the movies were linking back to things that happened in some of the TV shows. And I'm sitting there thinking, I haven't got time to watch all the TV shows. Stop linking back and referencing things that I've got no idea what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it was probably a really grand and huge idea
Hmm.
to have all these linked shows, but it was just too much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just
Do you think that happens?
no.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
I was asking, do you think that happens in book series as well? If you start to have some of the earlier ones, again, we talked about Shannara. I think Shannara is 30s or even early 40s in total number of books. Yeah, I think because this in funny interview I watched, he I think he's crossed Terry Pratchett. That was a funny thing. But anyway, so Shannara is very, 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 yeah, very, very high number of books. Rift War Cycle by Raymond D. Feist is another one. And then I think ones which are still ongoing, we have the Cosmere, which is currently 19 or 20 books, but Sanderson has a whole plan. Malazan is another one where I think Erickson and Esselmont combined have about 25 or something like that. It's quite a lot of work. At what point do you think that it starts becoming a barrier to entry for a new reader, in the same way that you mentioned about the movies? Do you think it translates the same way to books, or is it easier than movies?
Oh, I don't know. On one hand, movies is always going to be faster, and if you come to the franchise later, you're gonna find the correct order and the catalog, to watch things. So you don't have to wait and get the subscription for streaming and go to the cinema. So I think it would be easier to catch up. With books, it just depends on how much you like to read. If you have the patience for it. Again, if all the books are there, it's up to everyone. Personally, the idea of starting a series of 20 books, I find it quite discouraging. And anything over 10, I think it's a bit too much. 10 is kind of the limit, because at some point, just start anew.
My limit is actually 3, not even 10. 3 or 4 is my limit. Beyond that, I get so intimidated because I already have one, which is Song of Ice and Fire. If the next installment comes out, I will have to reread.
On the story.
Yes.
Yeah, but it depends on the story. I'm doing kind of disservice. And now, and it depends on the length of the book. Is it 20... 100,000 word books, or it's 350,000 word books. It does depend and what you like. If I like to read, I'll probably read as many words as necessary to learn the whole story if I like the story.
I think with the Shannara books, certainly the earlier ones, each trilogy that he did could stand alone. You didn't have to read all the others.
Okay. Yeah, so that's clever.
To understand that trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's kept up with that in his later ones or not, because I haven't read one in a few years now.
Yeah, that's much less, because then it means you try 3 and you get the whole story. And then if you like, you continue. If you don't, then you stop. That's reassuring. It's less intimidating to me. This is sort of the structure which Robin Hobb also follows, I think, with her Realm of the Elderlings. You can do Farseer and then do Life Ship Traders, and then if you like Farseer, you can continue on to Tawny Man, etc., etc. But yes, it's modularized, definitely. Whereas I don't think Malazan is modularized. It is one 10 book thing, at least the Book of the Fallen is. And Cosmere, so Stormlight Archive, what's happening from book 4, even book 3, but book 4 definitely, is there are links to other Cosmere novels, and the difference between having read them and not having read them is they appear like, where did this come from? And this is why this is happening. So there are a lot of things that happen in those books, in volume 3 and volume 4, which don't make sense unless one has read the other novels. So it's kind of the situation which Alex was saying, that the Marvel movies linking back to the TV shows. Certainly for someone who's all in to Cosmere, this is great stuff. But for somebody who was only a Stormlight reader, I was like, I just want to read Stormlight. I feel very confused and left out. Not left out, overwhelmed. I think overwhelmed is the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Steve? Will you start series if they are very long, or Do they have to be modularized? How is it for you?
It depends. If I'm going to be reading with a group who's committed to getting, then I might give it a try if it's a series that I'm interested in, but it's really intimidating to start a series, especially fantasy, when every book is 500 to 800 pages or even longer than that. It's a commitment. It's like year long. It's years. It's like a 10-year commitment to read a long series if you're doing it. I've gotten to the point now where I try to just take my time more when I read, and I'm not trying to speed through. No, I don't want to say speed through things, but just try to appreciate the craft and the story and the characters more, and slow down a little bit. So I'm trying to not overcommit to things, just to enjoy my time reading and not try to keep up. So it is intimidating when you look at a stack of books. And do you really need that many books to tell a story? And if you do, then it better be a damn good story. If your story takes 20,000 pages to tell, it better be good.
Yes, yeah, true. That's very. This is one of the reasons why I got so scared of by the Wandering In, because each volume gets chunkier and chunkier. So this is a web serial which is free to read, and then there's an audiobook version which you can get on Audible. I think the ebook version has some additional stuff, but anyway, otherwise it's free. And I think the first book is something like 1,000-ish. Then it goes 1,200, 1,300. Then one of the later volumes is 1,700. And I think I can't remember how many volumes there are out, but the author as of now I think she said she's about halfway through. Even by some miracle, if I were to get through to the point and catch up with, I would have to reread everything and forget everything. So I just gave up on that. It was too intimidating. In contrast, something like Dresden Files, where I think Jim Butcher has planned it to be 22 or something like this.
20 books.
Right.
20, I think.
20. Yeah. And he's up to 17, but everybody who's on this path, and I see plenty of people starting it all the time, they use it as palate cleansers, and they say it doesn't really matter. And this is the same with Discworld as well. I've seen readers over and over, whether they start in publication order or they usually start with Guards or the witches books. But whichever they do, they just say that we read a Discworld book once in a while, and it just works really well. The books are written that way. So that, in that sense, 42 is not a terrifying number, because there are sub series. Again, I'll let the Discworld readers talk.
Oh, you can't really compare Discworld to Dresden. I think in Dresden the order matters. Apart from maybe one book where he's kind of dead, it almost feels like a spin-off. But most of them build one upon the other, so you need to have an idea of the characters and what came before. Right. In Discworld, they are in groups, let's put it this way. So it is, and many worked as standalones, but you could read it, in small groups, so they don't have to be in order. So there's that. But to get a full experience, I think the more books you read, the more you'll take from the book, you'll understand. You don't need to know everything to understand the story, but the more you know, there's always like this Easter eggs, these little asides that makes it worthwhile to read. At least that's been my experience. The more I read them, it just really builds on. So
there's so many subtle little things in the Discworld novels that carry through onto the other books. One of the easiest ones to think of is the pub. Goes from the broken drum to the mended drum, back to the broken drum, then to the mended drum again. Every time there's a fight in the pub. And he progresses the year as well. So at one stage, people are saying, this is the year of the fruit bat, or the century of the fruit bat. And then you have a millennial moment and it becomes the century of the something else I can't remember. So there's little things like that, but you can still pick up any of the books in pretty much any order and read them without having to know all of that beforehand. It just, like Susanna said, adds more to it if you do know it.
I didn't realize it wasn't done yet. I thought it was finished. Is it Dresden? Oh, okay. So Dresden's not done. Okay.
Okay.
The Discworld is done.
And the author is gone.
Well, the author
unfortunately.
died.
Yeah, and I think one of his last wishes was that steamroller the hard drives with his stuff, because he didn't want posthumous publication, and those wishes were honored to the best of my knowledge.
That would be tough to. Would you want to pick and choose who you wanted to carry on if you did decide that you were okay with your books being finished post your demise? Would you want to pick and choose who you? I mean, is that a conversation that happens for authors?
So gloomy, isn't it? I feel so sad even thinking about. But I'm eager to hear what authors think. But I'm not an author; I'm a reader.
I am with Sir Terry Pratchett. Please destroy my hard disks. Don't look at my drafts. No, don't try to fix them. I have a plan. I don't think no one else can. If I can finish the story, if I can tell the whole story, I don't want anyone messing with it. They are just drafts, just ideas. I don't want anyone. The idea of anyone even open those files gives me heart palpitations. So no.
Yeah, I totally respect that. And Alex, how about you?
Well, as I haven't actually published a book yet, I don't see it being much of a problem.
Really?
Then, how about sharing your position on, let's say, if an author has said that they don't want something published, and due to tragic circumstances, they pass away. And then the next of kin, or the people who are in the position of making this decision, they decide that no, they are going to publish. Would you read that book, or is it something that you're not comfortable with? It has recently happened, which is why I'm asking the question.
One of my favorite books is like that. I don't think the author gave authorization to publish it. It wasn't finished. It was found at the bottom of a trunk. So I don't think it was supposed to see the light of day. I'm glad that it did, and it's amazing. But I sometimes wonder if the author is just turning in his grave and unhappy with the result. You know the book that I'm talking about, the Book of Disquiet, very well named.
Yes. Pessoa and Kafka. So Kafka was a person, author who died fairly young of illness, and he actually gave all his writings to his friend Max Brod, and he said, burn them. And until then, he had published very little, few short stories. So all the body of work that we have, more short stories, his 2 complete novels, 2 or I think 3. But anyway, the 2 big ones, The Trial and The Castle. Anyway, so Max Brod went against his friend's wishes because he said that this is all too great not to publish. And the rest is history, because I think both of these authors, the one Fernando Pessoa and Franz Kafka, they're just literary icons. They are their legacy is so strong. But it is true that they both had explicitly, they had said that we don't want this out. There are some other cases. One is Vladimir Nabokov. His last novel, which ultimately got published a fair while later, because it was after his wife's death. He didn't want that published, and then his son apparently. Ultimately, they said that they decided to publish. And the one which I said recently happened is Gabo, so Gabriel Garcia Marquez. In his final novel, which was just published, it's called Until August. So this was written at a time when he was struggling with dementia, and his last wishes, not his last wishes, sorry, but his wishes regarding this book, but that it not be published. And after a long time, his sons, both his sons, recently decided to publish the book. So that was when we had a bit of a debate, and there were people on both sides. There were people saying that if you don't want it to be published, then you have to destroy it yourself. And there were other people. I was in the camp that if the author has said to not publish, then it should be honored, especially when there is a medical reason like this for it. Dementia means that I'm not being able to cognitively engage with my work. I just felt very sad over.
But if you die suddenly or unexpectedly, you don't have a
thinking,
chance to destroy your work, right? I mean, you just hope that people respect your wishes and don't.
Yeah.
New
And it was
fear
a case by
unlocked.
case.
I'm going to have a talk to my husband later.
Yeah, I don't know. That's if someone. I guess it depends too on. With like Will Jordan, didn't he leave the rights to his work with his wife, and that's why she was able to pick who carried it on? So I guess you could. Mm-hmm. I guess that's one thing you can do in advance is to have someone put it in someone's hands who you hope will respect your wishes. I guess. I mean,
yes.
But if it's your intellectual if it's your property, if you own it and you pass, then who gains control? Like, how does that work? Who gets control over your work if it's not specified anywhere? Like, how does that work?
Oh, you mean they didn't make a will? If usually the famous ones will have made a will where they named somebody who is the executor of their estate. Might be their spouse, or let's say in JRRT's case, it was Christopher Tolkien, and then the wider Tolkien estate. If they've not left anything, I actually don't know. I think maybe it will be treated as. Actually, I don't know. I don't know whether it is treated as property the same way as other property, in which case it will just pass to their next of kin, or whether intellectual property, so it will pass to the publisher. Not sure. If they don't say anything, then I don't know which one.
Yeah, we're going to have a talk. I need to look into that because I know I'm going to obsess about it.
What? This is such a
Thanks,
sad and gloomy thing.
I need to put my affairs in order just in case. Mm-hmm.
Graham has said that he doesn't want anyone to continue. It's a bit sad that he was asked this, honestly, but anyway, he has said that he wants his work destroyed.
So we'll really never get it. We'll never get a conclusion to that then.
Any day now. I have hope. My hope is very strong.
This will be the year.
Okay, I'm not that strong.
Well, 2025 will be the year.
Yeah, I'm now going to say 2026 because usually it's a year cycle. If he didn't announce it at Worldcon, it's probably not coming next year. Now I'm hoping within.
Now the announcement is going to be a surprise. It's just going to be a surprise, and it's just going
Wow! Now Susanna's on
break.
perfume. But there are also other things, like, for example, Kentaro Miura, who did Berserk, he just died. It's very, very sad, untimely demise. And now, but he had a whole studio of people working with him, and now I think they are going to be continuing the series and trying to complete it under the guidance of his best friend, who is also a mangaka, from what I know. But yeah, I, that's one of those ones where I was really, really so sad when I reached the end of the published volume of Berserk. And it is such a strange, when I, what to say, I won't spoil anything, but it is such a strange last uh, image on which he went out, in my opinion. It changes everything. It's kind of an iconic thing.
Yeah, I think if you have, I think the things like you mentioned, there's a team that took it over, or at least someone. I think it's his son that's kind of spearheading it, and there's a team that is continuing on. But then you wonder how that's all going to work because it takes so long to get those volumes out. So, and then you wonder how much of it will really be faithful to his notes and how they'll be treated, and how much detail is in his notes, or is it just kind of general point? I mean, it's not a it's a weird thing. So hopefully it'll work out.
I hope so.
It's a tough one. Not an easy conversation to have, I'm sure.
It's gloomy, it's sad, and also very awkward. I mean, I wouldn't be able to even think of saying, like, whenever people ask, especially George R. R. Martin, this question, I personally feel the cringe. Like, let me hide and not have to listen to this. It's inherently something about it feels distasteful. Ask somebody, hey, how long have you got? I'm like, no, stop.
I mean, Father Time is undefeated, so it's a question you have to ask, I guess. Yeah.
So it's Friday then.
So another fun topic that we had talked about the last couple of weeks on the forum is one that I'm curious about with two authors here, and of course, Parmeet is a prolific reader. Is there was a video on YouTube about that was suggesting that authors, and specifically indie authors, shouldn't review books, and that seems really weird to me. I don't know. Does I can kind of see the argument to not review books because you don't want to upset people, but I don't know. It seems strange to me that if you're, because they we a lot of people tout this community, quote unquote, of writers, and if isn't part of being in that so-called community also being someone who reads and who offers feedback on things, and I don't know. It seems weird to me that you can't or shouldn't review books if you write them in fear of upsetting someone. It seems like a weird advice to me, but I don't know what you guys think.
I deliberately I had to walk away from that thread because yeah, I started to write and then I deleted because everything could be summarized as just fuck off. It's pretty much my opinion of that take. I completely disagree for so many reasons. First, the implication that the reviews are going to be negative. So what? Authors only give negative reviews? Is that it? They're only going to be critics? What the hell? Second, authors are readers, or they should be primarily readers. I count myself, I'm primarily a reader. I read a lot more than I write. I spend a lot more time reading than I do writing. So why wouldn't I review if I had something to say? I refrain from reviewing Things that I don't like, I might rate. Usually, if it's 50, 70-year-old book, I have no problem rating, a 2-star. If it's a more recent book, I if I DNF, I don't rate. I stopped rating self-published authors because I know anything below 5 stars, it's going to be considered bad. So there's that. And for that reason, I rarely read self-published now. But I think that is the issue. There's a lot of authors, especially self-published authors out there, that just cannot, they're completely incapable of taking even the slightest amount of criticism. Even if the review is glowing, they're going to pick on something, but I didn't like this character, some simple comment, and then, there comes the meltdown. And yeah, that puts readers and reviewers off. But because I have books published, I shouldn't review. Well, why not? Think what you're saying. So you were excluding this huge community of writers of readers that just happen to write from reviewing books. You're shooting yourself in the foot. It's just no. And I'm so tired of all these laws that booktubers and bloggers and reviewers create for authors. Authors can't complain, authors can't say this, can't do that, can't. Just no, enough. You already have to do so much. Take all the responsibility, financially, personal, and yeah, at every turn, don't, bad, don't. Just let us be. Just let us write and read and review and just enjoy. We do this so other people can enjoy. So let us enjoy as well. It's too hard now. It's just becoming too hard. Seriously.
In one sense, I'm very opposite to Susanna in that I write far more than I read because I just don't have time to read these days. I'm either writing or working, or I'm staring blankly at Warhammer 40,000 Dawn of War thinking, I shouldn't be playing this, I should be writing. But when I do read, and when I was younger, I used to read non-stop. I used to survive on about 2 hours sleep because I'd be reading all night. I never, back then, reviewing books was something that only the press ever did.
Yeah.
So, there you go, letting on how old I actually am. So, this whole booktube thing was a complete eye-opener to me, and I felt no desire to get involved in reviewing other people's books on booktube or Goodreads or anything like that, because the shitstorm that you see on Twitter when anything goes in a direction that one person doesn't like, it just seems to explode so quickly. And like Susanna said, there's so many rules out there. I mean, somebody got absolutely torn apart for unfollowing a reviewer after a bad review.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And I'm sitting there thinking,
happens. You can't.
It's his Twitter account.
Yeah,
he can unfollow who the hell he wants.
Exactly.
Surely.
Exactly.
But no, it does happen.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely, I'm sure it happens. All I can say, I'm just only on the reader side, not written anything. I would read reviews by anyone, whether they are indie author, Tradbub author, general reader, and I don't place, in my limited experience, whatever little I've read of reviews, and I do read reviews a lot before picking a book or even after reading a book. I don't have any such there is no distinction in my mind. Like, some reviews will be written by really good reviews will be written by just readers. It can be one author, one Tradpub author, some favorite book of theirs, they review very well. So it's like that is not a determining factor at all. And this rule doesn't make any sense to me. If it is a matter of courtesy within the community, I think that comes from that comes from being a professional. If somebody is a professional and they love books and they love writing, they will respect fellow creators and they will give fellow artists their honest opinion. If it is a negative opinion, still it is equally valid. And if it is a positive opinion, so this assumption that every single person who gives a negative review, which is, I'm guessing, the reason for telling people that don't do this, that they will, I think the term is review bomb. But no, I'm quite sure most people have no inclination to do this. Like, first thing is they are too tired. I think both the authors on the panel said that they're dead tired. I don't think they have any time for this. So no, I absolutely
No.
anyone only criteria to review a book, I think, is if you have tried a fair amount of it. If you read one page and you say this book is terrible, 1 star, I think it's a bit unfair. If you have read the book, whatever you do, Goodreads is a reader's site for readers to share their opinions, and why not? I mean, there is no exclusionary criteria. So if the great algorithm has not done any such thing, who are we to impose all these unnecessary boundaries? Seems very dispiriting.
Yeah. Like I have these, personal rules of like and if it's self-published, unless it's 5 stars, I'm not going to review, or unless I've been asked to do it, which has happened. And in these cases, I'm not going to review if I don't like either, because I learned my lesson. And I have the YouTube channel, and for example, and I promised myself not to do, reaction reviews or just bad reviews. When I don't have time to talk, record, and edit, it's hours and hours for something that I don't like, just to let the world know that I don't like it, unless there's a very special reason for it. If it's something that I feel very deeply about. But then I don't think I would still do it that way. I would tell my friends, talk to, in these conversations, I would make a video about it. So, for example, I was really looking forward to read The Mercy of God by James S.A. Corey. And I was thinking, I'm maybe gonna, I'm gonna try if I can record a review, because it's gonna be good. And I didn't enjoy it. I was disappointed, and I mean, I could still record a review saying that I was disappointed, but what would be the point? I don't want to spend more time on it. It didn't work for me. That's that. If I can't muster any enthusiasm for it, so why am I putting that? I don't want to stop people reading it or enjoying it. So I don't think my input saying, I was disappointing, it's not going to add anything to the book. And the last thing I want is, again, it's stopping people from reading it or having a bad impression. That was my impression. So if I can't recommend it, I say, this is great, this is amazing. Because to even sit in front of the camera, I need to have that, this is great.
Yeah, that impetus.
This is really, I want. Yeah. If I don't feel that, I'm not going to review. As simple as that. So.
I think one angle to that is that I think for books like, was it Mercy of the Gods, the James S.A. Corey? I think a lot of people are driven by the clicks and by the attention. So if they read it and dislike it, they create a video or a post or whatever trashing it because it'll get attention from the people who hate it as much, or the people who love it. Whether it's positive or negative attention, they'll get attention. So they do it because they want the attention, and they want that engagement at any cost. And it doesn't make sense to me. But as far as authors go, whenever, especially whenever self pub authors review, a lot of self pub authors just constantly give 5 stars to everything, just all the time. Whenever they review something, it's 5 stars. Not all of them.
Yeah,
A lot of
Yeah,
them.
I have this question. How? Please share some of your, enthusiasm with me. I It took me 4 weeks to increase my Goodreads average rating by 0.01. Help me.
This is a quid pro quo thing that a lot of people do. They'll review each other's books. They'll
Oh,
5 star their
yeah.
books. They'll give a glowing review. They'll write a blog post. They'll post on Goodreads. They'll tweet it. They'll whatever. And it's just like a circle, like this feedback loop that will just 5 stars everything, and they all do it to each other. So there's a lot of books that I'll go and check reviews for, and it'll have 20 reviews, and 18 of them are from other authors that are 5 star glowing reviews. It's like I don't trust any of these reviews because it's just this loop when they just give each other 5 stars over and over again. I don't even know if they read. I don't know if they even read the books. That's a whole nother conversation whether or not all these reviewers and authors actually read these books that they're giving glowing reviews for. But yeah, I don't trust them at all. I very rarely do I ever pay attention to other authors reviewing other books, which is sad because I think part of what makes art great is when you critique art and when you give feedback and when you look at things and you get different perspectives. And when somebody tears it down and
Hmm.
critiques it and gives you, and not in a mean spirited way, but in a way that's, this is what I didn't work for me. It makes you better at your craft, and it makes you, the next thing you create will be better. Or you can completely dismiss it if you want to. But I think that's what's fun about art is critiquing things and breaking things down and giving different perspectives. And I feel like we're losing that now in fear of upsetting someone. It's like, I
Hmm.
worked really hard on this book.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't like it. Well, I worked really hard on it. Don't give it a 3 star review. But I know you worked really hard on it, but it's not necessarily a bad thing either, because something that I may not like about a book, someone else may really enjoy. So if they see my review that says,
yeah,
I didn't like this character because the humor didn't work for me because of this, they may say,
yeah,
oh, I love that. And then they'll go buy it. So as long as
yeah.
you're not being mean spirited or you're not being hateful, or, you're being respectful, but giving your honest opinion, that's what makes art wonderful, is the critiques and making each other better and growing as artists and creatives. That's part of the
Hmm.
journey, I think. And I think we're losing that. And because, and not everyone, I'm not speaking about everyone. There's a large group of
Mhm.
authors out there who just contribute to this loop of, praising each other when it's all bull, it's all crap.
It's calmer now, or at least I haven't had any requests in a while. But when I joined the community, it was every week, sometimes more constant review exchange.
Hmm.
Just
But
and
okay,
you can't even do that on Amazon anymore. It really backfired because if they catch like it's the same author reviewing other author and vice versa, they will take the review down, and sometimes they are overly zealous. A couple of times I had to contact them and say, no, yes, it's an author, but we did not exchange reviews. I read too, and a couple of reviewers got their reviews down as well because they were constant battle. But yeah, it happened a lot. And whenever you said, you couldn't say no, or you couldn't back down after you said yes. If you said yes and you couldn't come back saying, oh, I'm sorry, this didn't work for me, because then you would get 4 or 5 1 stars out of nowhere. It could happen, and then ruin your
um,
everything. Oh yeah,
Wow.
it could happen because authors have friends and family, most of them. So it took me a while to distance myself from it, and I am guilty of have left 2 5-star reviews of books that I didn't like because I was afraid of the repercussions of not doing it. And I'm not going to say the names of the authors, but they are on my list, and I try to stay away from them.
mm,
And this exists,
yes.
so
One thing I
it is hard.
wanted to ask all of you, again, just from the reader perspective, is uh, if let's say Steve's, which I guess is an extreme example, but let's use a hyperbole. Out of 20 reviews, if 18 are by authors who presumably received free copies, um, how does this translate to good sales or breaking even, or even affording enough to write the next book? Because, I mean, I understand the point of getting the art across and making it available, but artists also need to eat and live and have a decent lifestyle and at least have the basic conditions to be able to create their art. So, how is the reviewing? I know there's not an exact correlation at all between the number of reviews and sales, but there is some sort of, more reviews means more people have read the book and come and at least bought the book and read it and come and reviewed it. So that kind of thing. But so I was just wondering, how does the sales get amplified then?
I think the Goodreads average goes up,
Good
right?
question.
Yeah, and people look at the average. Because I never look at the average because a lot of my favorite books have like below 4.0 rating. A lot of them. So I don't look at the average usually. But okay, fair.
I rarely look at the average, and I would not be put off if it was like a 3.5 average, and it doesn't mean anything to me, but I know to many people it does. Anything below 4 stars, again, it's forget about it. It's
And
completely destroyed.
okay,
So you need those 5 stars,
okay.
and most people they don't review. Like I was actually looking into it the other day for taxes and things, and I get ratings for like 5% of my sales. Maybe even less if you count all the ebooks at 99 cents. And of those ratings, I don't know, again, just 10% of that at most translates in a review. Just most people don't have the habit of or the time to go and write a review. You get lucky if you just get a rating. And getting a rating, especially if it's a bad rating without a review, that's terrible. It's a lot of damage because you don't get then enough good reviews to balance out, the average, the rate. Because it's all average in ratings and likes and numbers. And where are we? We ask the readers for reviews. But again, people, they finish the book, they start a new one. They even if they think, oh yeah, I'll leave a review on Goodreads, but then something, life happens and they forget. So you have to go to reviewers, so people to actually, do that for whatever reason, money, attention, just the kindness of their hearts. And yeah, and then you keep seeing the same names, the same reviews, and it's because seeing the authors, we don't have access to that great pool of reviewers, and most of them, they it's, there's a lot of reviewers out there that shouldn't call themselves reviewers. It's been a mess. The last 3 years, especially, it's just been a mess. I rarely, very rarely, approach anyone for reviews these days. I just gave up. It's just my sales are just word of mouth, whatever I get from the channel, and a few ads here and there. That's that. But I mean, we need reviews. You need good reviews as well. It's complicated. It's such a mess. So I'm not gonna judge those who do review exchange, or it is necessary sometimes, but also don't tell me that I can't review books, because it just makes the problem worse. And I like, if I have something to say about a book, especially if it's a good thing, I I want to be able to say it. If I already have so many don'ts as an author, please don't take away my privileges as a reader. That's it.
There was another discussion. It might have been the same one, I'm not sure, but it was on a similar note, and that was you shouldn't review from the point of whether or not you enjoyed the book.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Yeah.
so what
I
points are you going to review?
I couldn't believe
Yeah,
that one.
I was just like, what? Yeah, I read that and I was just like, what? That is number one. Because what else are we supposed to? I'm gonna keep deep breathe, deep breathe. Imagine a picture of the pug deep breathing. I don't even get the thing. So if you don't rate based on a review based on enjoyment, then what do you review based on?
I think that's coming from a very technical viewpoint that's more about breaking down the prose and the characters, and it's from less of an emotional viewpoint and more of just like
Okay.
a technical, like removing yourself from the work and just looking at it from a purely technical viewpoint. But how many people can really do that? Unless why would you want to do that? Isn't part of it, again, going
Yeah.
back?
First part is I don't even want to do that because I think especially on reviews and stuff, a lot of people, whether we are watching it or we are listening to it or reading it, it is associated with a person. And the individuality is there. So if you remove the individuality and the personhood by imposing this, again, I think it comes back to that thing, this rule thing. Who came up with them? Anyway, the point is that if you impose this barrier that, okay, you separate yourself and you look at the pros, you can't do that. Even intellectually, purely as an intellectual thought experiment, any analysis of humanities is still very much subjective. Again, this is the part that really broke my brain because, well, it didn't officially break my brain, but I just couldn't get my head around it. Humanities, whichever part you're analyzing, whether it's history, whether it's English, whether it's philosophy, it is subjective ultimately. That's why they have these reading lists which are pages and pages. It's not natural sciences where as long as you repeat the conditions of the experiment, it should be reproducible. That's why they are natural science laws. They are true irrespective of human interference or human biases. So I was just like, huh? I didn't get it. Still don't get it.
But there's no way. It's not necessary to be one thing or the other.
Yeah, exactly.
You can be critical and analytical and still be subjective and still give your personal opinion. It's difficult. And of course, any opinion, any evaluation, especially in something like writing, sure, you could bring up all the rules, but never mind that. There's really no rules when you're telling a story, or the rules don't apply to every story. It's complicated. But you can analyze the test and be critical and still then give an opinion. I was telling Paramita earlier about the book that I didn't like, and I say that I didn't like, as in it was almost a rage read at some point, but I still gave it 5 stars because it is a good book. I recognize it was a good book. It was just I would really like to take the story in a different direction so many times. So, but it happens. But I can see many people don't do that. They encounter something they don't like, and it's a bad book. Or they encounter something they love and it's the best thing in the world. And the reviews then reflect that.
Yeah, that's usually me. I actually do that. If I don't like it, bye. And I think I say that in my, if anybody looks at it, that, it's just my opinion. everything is just whatever I felt. I don't have something going on. Even my rating, it's like, what does this feel like? No, absolutely. Meh. So meh is like, okay, 3. And then, yeah, it's pretty good 4. It's based on vibes. I don't really go very deep into it. I can, if it really asked that Parmita, tell me between this and this. I can do that because I like organizing stuff. But again, like sort of what Alex said in the beginning, what Steve said, like, why would I want to do that? I don't get any kind of fun out of that. Whether it's a very enthusiastic description of a book or whether it's a rant review, chiefly what I find interest in is human reactions, people responding to art. So I'm not going to lie, the whole, remove your enjoyment out of it and then review the book sounds really boring. I would probably fall asleep if I watched that. I have fallen asleep in some analysis videos. When people start to get very, here I'm going to talk about this literature, and I'm like, okay, this is probably why I would not have done very well studying languages or English. You have to be able to do that to a certain extent, and I can't. I can't. I start laughing at some point at myself.
Well, I think if you, first of all, it sounds like work when you strictly keep
Yeah,
emotion
right?
out of it, but isn't that also part of what makes art great is the emotion that it elicits from you? And if you look at everything from a technical standpoint, because we often talk about creatives who break the rules and create something new and send things in a different direction. So if you look at everything from a very, very structured technical way, then you'll miss out on so many great stories that break those rules. And that's happened throughout history. We've had so many people that break those rules or bend them, and it creates a whole new avenue for people to create in. So I don't know. I think it's just kind of, it seems the opposite of what art is. Isn't it supposed to elicit emotion and elicit feelings? And of course it's important to also understand, but to be familiar with writing and characters and characterizations and language and because you can appreciate all those things, of course. So I think it's important to learn storytelling and to become a more I don't say more intellectual, a more knowledgeable reader, I guess, just for your own enjoyment, because you miss out on things if you don't kind of pay attention to certain things or kind of appreciate tricks that are used or whatever. But at the same time, I don't know, it sounds like it's your job instead of just something you do for fun. I don't know. I don't quite understand the point of that, but I guess if everyone has their own approach, I guess.
I'm firmly team enjoyment. The moment one of you starts telling me some literary theory, I'm running. But I'll just imagine a small pug running away the other direction.
I mean, when I sit down and try to write something, I always think to myself, I should know all these things like correct sentence structure, and I should know exactly how my characters are going to interact at any specific moment because I know that character inside and out because I created it. But I don't. I just sit down and write what comes into my head. And it's probably the wrong attitude to take, but when it comes to things like grammar and sentence structure, that's what I'm paying an editor for.
Exactly that. Different skills.
And if it wasn't enjoyment, I wouldn't be writing because it would just be like an extension of my working day.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it comes across. If the writer doesn't enjoy what they're writing, the reader isn't going to enjoy it when they read it. And if the reader doesn't enjoy it, everybody isn't going to know the reader isn't enjoying it.
Yeah, that's very true.
So, like all art, it's very visceral, it's very emotional, and it has to be. Because otherwise, you're just reading the fundamentals of inorganic chemistry, which I had to read when I went to university, which was dull as dishwater. But, as a chemistry book, it was brilliantly written.
Good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I really hope that writers don't lose this love for the story, their love for creating art, even though so many adverse circumstances. But when the book finally comes out, and for people who are enthusiastic about their writing, I really think, as Alex said, it really comes across in the page. And then you, as the reader, are like, yes, it's a very, very beautiful thing when that connection happens. I always view a book as a communication between a reader and a writer. And I don't know, to remove any the emotional part of that would no, it not for me. If I read, I would read with enjoyment, definitely as part of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny. Sometimes you can tell, you can see. I mean, I can see that the book is not perfect. There's so many, unpolished bits in the prose, or maybe the characters not fleshed out. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad book.
Mm-hmm.
I can still enjoy, sloppy work. If that, I kind of feel bad even saying this, or bad writing, because it's not the case. It might not be, the most elevated prose, the most, lyrical prose, just basic prose, but a good story, it's enough. So sometimes it is
It
enough.
is. It is. I
And, there are books that are beautifully written. There's not a comma, a word out of place.
Yeah, but they didn't. Yeah, it
I mean,
happened to me many
but
times.
then the story,
Yeah, not for
it
me. Yes,
just
exactly.
can't connect, just doesn't work. So everything is subjective. So why keep it out of it? Yeah. I don't know. Another
Just
rule.
going back to the whole critics
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
I have had my first piece of criticism on Carpentry in the Urban Forest.
Mm.
My mum didn't think it was as good as The Healer.
Ooh, respect.
What does that mean?
But she did then preface that with she prefers adventure over comedy.
Fair
I do
enough.
too, actually. What is comedy? I don't like humor.
I don't like to laugh.
If I want to laugh, I'll read a
Laughing's for
joke.
wimps.
Be serious in your book. I'm being very facetious here. My my fellow friends know, but yeah, humor is a very tough thing for me. A lot of people who many readers say are funny. I just don't find them funny at all. I'm like, hey, where is fun? Don't. So yeah, what this is a
Yeah.
very interesting. I do prefer adventure any day over, but we'll see. But that's very cool as well. Moms are the best.
The whole authors and the whole the loop that happens with the 5-star reviews. I guess the alternative is to not be online. But then how do you promote your books? I mean, this
Exactly.
is weird. This weird.
Exactly. Because, like I said, you can't rely on the readers to leave a review. Even with all the reminders, most people don't. They just forget and don't have access. Well, you do if you are on social media. Sometimes you can talk to readers, but it's, there are rules against that too. So sometimes we do have to rely on each other.
So many rules.
So many rules, yeah.
I mean, it's also true not just for India. I think even TradPub authors have to be a bit online, if especially if they are launching their book. The debut or the second book, I think they have to do, because I'll give you an example. This book that I gushed about, Failures, it's published by Daw Books. They did okay marketing, but I don't think marketing is their strong suit. But anyway, the only reason I heard of this book is because of Discord. Somebody was talking about it on Discord, and I was like, okay, this is at the back of my mind. And then we talked about it a bit, different friends, and then I was like, no, I don't want to read this. Then somebody said, oh, this is really, really good. It's like, really? Okay, let me go back. So this kind of interaction, which if an author goes offline completely, yes, the book is out there, but how do you spread the word then? Even to have a mailing list, first you need a list of people who have signed up. How do you get that if not online? I think it's almost necessary a bit to be at least one account.
Yeah, it is.
Hmm.
Yeah, it is. I said this several times, and it still holds true. Whenever I'm more active on Twitter, I have more sales. It almost doesn't matter what I post. Just being there, just sharing not only my stuff but other people's books. Just interacting when I'm, because I take breaks. So whenever I'm there, I have more sales. And whenever I go away for a week, sometimes I do that. I just don't post anything, just shut down. My sales drop. Consistent. It's been the only consistent thing through the last 5 years. It's almost 5 years since I published Earbuds. And it sucks the soul out of me because I hate being there. But it's the thing that works. I tried everything. It's the only thing that still works. So there you go.
I'm thinking of bullying younger members of my family who understand things like TikTok and Instagram into promoting my books.
Good.
Yeah, that's an option.
TikTok might not be around here in the States in a few months.
True. Yeah.
I like Insta. The thing is, you have to have an account to watch many of them, but one or two you can watch in a day. Yeah, Insta Reels are fun. I think for book reveal stuff, it's very helpful. I'm very sad that they've closed Twitter to people who don't have an account. Before it used to be that you can at least browse, can't respond or anything, but you can at least read. And many interesting book stuff I used to find this way. But then now it's been quite a while that they just closed it. I can't do anything. I have to wait for people to share something and then I click it and I go there.
It's a mess.
So Twitter, Insta, and TikTok, these are the big one, and YouTube, I guess. But Reddit or no, not really.
YouTube, I don't know. It's only been a year, but it's been enough time. I didn't notice any difference with the channel. It's a very small channel, but I I admire, and I don't know how they do it, authors that manage to run a successful YouTube channel and still write. I guess you really have to do that first, build your audience there, and then write a book, and then it's a good momentum. But it's because it's not. It was not the point of the channel. If I really want to keep it separate, what I do my promotion mostly is on Twitter. So I guess that's why it works there. So yeah, but you need, even I think I said this before as well when I was when I put Weird Gods for auditions on Audible for the audiobook. One of the questions I thought I wouldn't get anyone, because one of the questions was how many followers you have or subscribers you have on social media. on Twitter or on YouTube. At the time, I had like 100. So I figured, well, no one's going to reply to this. I was very lucky that Sarah replied. But yeah, that is one of the questions, and it's not the only place where to apply. They ask you how many followers you have or how many subscribers you have, or this and that, and it matters.
It's insane.
It does matter.
Finally, all those bots following me on Twitter will serve useful.
Oh yeah, numbers counts.
It's insane.
And I'm up to a whopping 466 followers, and I think 200 of them are bots.
I wonder how many users are bots on Twitter.
It's
Lots.
better now, I think. Yeah.
But how do you know even? Like, do they just post random stuff or not post at all?
They don't post anything.
Yeah. They're
Well, no,
just
they
there.
usually post one thing,
Okay.
which is some sort of AI-generated quote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm sorry,
pretty much.
sorry, I didn't mean to laugh. That's so bizarre. So what's the purpose of the bot account, if you don't mind me asking? I mean, why are they there at all?
No, I'm not entirely sure because they never seem to do
promote,
anything.
maybe to promote whatever it is they're promoting.
Numbers promoted for sharing specific things. I don't know.
Wow.
I mean, let's have a look at Le Everett 65272.
Yeah, that's red
Has one
flag.
post, but those rhythms have found me and their invitations are alluring. That's it. It's following 7,000 people and has 103 followers.
If only we had to worry about was writing a good book. If that was it, it's just so much more.
Yeah.
And that is a lot to worry about.
It is.
And the books suffer because of all the things we have to worry about as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's what it is.
It's wild.
And then there's fitting it in around the job that actually pays the bills.
That too. Yeah. The book suffers. This week I couldn't write this paragraph. I'm still revising a series because I clocked it. I couldn't get more than about 16 to 20 minutes of uninterrupted time. I was constantly interrupted with something. Just paying attention, I couldn't get more than 20 minutes. So I just listen to audiobooks instead. Just do something else. It's very, very hard.
It's wild. Well, on that note, it's getting late for
positive note now. Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah, I know I know it's getting late for everyone, or not late for me, but I think early for Parmita. But these are always the funnest ones, just to come and rant and rave and talk about good and bad things. Mostly bad things, I guess, but it's okay. It's fun. It's still nice knowing that you weren't the only one noticing shenanigans going on. That you're not crazy. And there's a lot of good things too. A lot of great things about the book. I hate using the word community, but there's a lot of great things about it too. But I think it's okay to call out the crap too.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a good thing. So
yeah, and also, I mean, just because one of us thinks something is not great doesn't mean that other people can't find value from it. It's kind of the same thing that we talked about reviews. One person's 1 star will be another person's 5 stars, so on and so forth. So it's okay to share opinions as long as what Steve said.
Mm-hmm.
We do it respectfully, not just mean-spirited, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that we should. I don't think we should lose that. Otherwise, it's like being on tenterhooks all the time. And again, another thing which all of you said is then it starts to feel like work and just more of the same, and it feels like we are redoing the same routine over and over again. That's not fun.
Mm-hmm.
We are among people whom we are comfortable with. I hope there's that much understanding and acceptance that we can be a little bit free.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well said. See, we ended on a positive note. Thank you, Parmeet. You saved us.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
I was a bit worried when the discussion turned to how are you going to deal with your work when you're dead?
Yeah, I really, yeah.
Gotta have a plan.
I need to have a plan.
And we've always got the nice warm blanket of page chewing to roll back into.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The food debate is really heating up, and I'm here for it.
I think I caused chaos when I introduced breakfast items into the dessert discussion.
They're all perfectly valid desserts.
I thought so.
Yeah, that discussion was really
Still
smart.
going.
Just a goofy, just a fun thread.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But until next time, Susanna, where can people find you and your work?
My work is available pretty much everywhere. The first book is Weird Gods, available worldwide. You can start there, or you can read my novella To Trick a Trickster, only available on Amazon at the moment. And you can find me on Twitter, my YouTube channel, and the Page Chewing forums.
And Parmeetha, where can people find you?
Best place is the Page Chewing forums. And yeah, that's usually hang out there quite a bit. Have fun.
Yes. And Alex, when can we expect, or do you have a timetable on when we may be expecting updates on your work?
Well, at the moment, my editor is suffering from some ill health, so my original date to get the book back has slipped a bit, so I'm not sure when I'll be getting it back or how many changes I'm going to have to make off the back of it. I'm assuming a lot. So I don't know when it will be coming out yet. And I don't even know if I'm going to go trad or self-publish with this one. I just don't know. Whether or not I've got the money available to self-pub, given my precarious employment situation at the moment. So, bringing the level of the conversation down to depressing again.
It's exciting. It's you're on the path to complete something you've been working on for years. It's good news. You're good there.
Yeah, and who knows? It might propel me into, stardom and the top 10 bestsellers list in the Times or something. Who knows? I can be found on Twitter, Page Chewing, and I'm also on Blue Sky, and I think I'm on Instagram. I'm not sure because I had an argument with Facebook about sending them my driving license to reactivate my account, which I refused to do.
Huh?
Yeah.
That's insane.
That's weird.
Yeah, my account got locked because they noticed some suspicious activity on it. Somebody tried to hack it or something. I'm not sure what. So they locked my account and said, in order to unlock it, we need you to prove who you are. So we'll just delete the account then. But they haven't done that either.
Social media platforms.
Yeah, it's insane. Fun times. But yeah, I'm on Twitter and I'm on the Page Chewing forum, which I heartily recommend for anybody with any interest in books or food.
Or blackjack. Well, cool. So yeah, thanks everyone for making time, and we'll talk to everyone very soon. Hope everyone has a fantastic weekend. And be sure to leave a review on the books that you read, please.
Thank you.